But first, polls in California close in exactly 1 hour as Governor Newsom's political fate hangs in the balance. Voters are being asked two questions. Should Newsom be removed from office? And if he is recalled, who should take his place? It just takes more than 50% to oust Gavin Newsom, and then the highest ranked challenger takes his job. But the polls continue to look better for Newsom tonight as all the liberal big money that's destroying California has come pouring in to protect a horrible administration doing every single thing wrong. The most recent Emerson poll shows it's 60-40 in Newsom's favor. Nearly 30% of likely voters would support Republican candidate Larry Elder, the frontrunner in this race, and a clear frontrunner at that. 33% there at the bottom said none of them. Kevin Paffrath, a Democrat that the media has pretended does not exist, has about 6%. You see him there at 5.8. He's going to join us later on in the show. He's a very interesting candidate, a Democrat going against Gavin Newsom. But right now we want to get to our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, at Larry Elder's campaign headquarters in Costa Mesa, California. Logan, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Rob, and you bring up a good point. So people who vote yes to the recall doesn't mean that they're going to be a Republican voter. There are 9 Democrats on the ballot, so there could be Democrat voters that have had enough with Gavin Newsom that might vote to recall him. But right now, the polls in California close in less than an hour from now, and Larry Elder is looking to be the first Republican governor since Arnold Schwarzenegger, the last governor to win in a recall, and Elder would also be the first black governor from the state of California. Larry Elder is from South Central Los Angeles. He's been in conservative talk radio for decades, and he really has momentum. This recall heated up once he jumped into the race, and people could even say that the Republicans, in a sense, kind of picked up a moral victory just by getting this to a recall. But Elder and the GOP want to see more than this, just that. They want to win this election, and they want to end up in Sacramento. Now, Gavin Newsom, as you mentioned, Rob, he has a lot of support from Democrats like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, but also people in Hollywood and George Soros and big money donors like that. Now, Larry Elder, even if he might lose this recall, let's say Gavin Newsom is not recalled, Larry Elder is not ruling out his political chances in the future. He was asked by a Fresno radio station today, if you do not win, do you have plans to run again against Gavin Newsom? Absolutely. Elder said, I have now become a political force here in California, particularly within the California GOP, and I'm not going to leave the stage. So we're waiting for Elder to come out tonight. Again, he is the front runner for the Republicans, and if Newsom is recalled, this could very well be the next governor. But Gavin Newsom is not having a watch party tonight, so really all eyes will be here in Costa Mesa. Back to you.
Right, Gavin Newsom wants to act like this is not happening. All right, Logan, thank you so much. We'll check back with you as we go on through the show, of course, as the night continues on. Well, the attempts to keep Gavin Newsom in power have been some of the most painful and pathetic that we've seen in quite some time. Utter despair from the Democrat establishment party, vilifying a black man from humble beginnings who worked hard and made a successful life for himself. Larry Elder is the picture of the American dream in this country, for most Americans, that is, except for liberals who expect the black community to accept its place as perpetual victims of society in need of government assistance. Last night, our shameless, incompetent, and embarrassing president went to California to trash talk a conservative black man from South Central LA and support a rich, elitist phony who was born into a wealthy family in San Francisco. Take a look.
This year, the leading Republican running for governor is the closest thing to a Trump clone that I've ever seen in your state. I'm going to make this as simple as I can. You either keep Gavin Newsom as your governor, or you'll get Donald Trump. It's not a joke.
How embarrassing. This is a guy that has done absolutely nothing right in the, 7-8 months he's been in office. He's done absolutely nothing right. His approval rating is in the toilet, and he comes out and says, why would you even ask him to come? Does Newsom want to lose? The only reason you'd ask him to come is if you wanted to lose, because this is a picture of total incompetence, standing up there telling you who to vote for. Whatever he says, you should do the opposite of. That's what we've learned about the Biden administration. Whatever they do, we should have done the opposite, right? It's the same on immigration, same on Afghanistan. A huge risk, though. You might end up with competence in California. I'm not sure how California would deal with that, having a competent governor. Here is more from our delusional president. Take a listen.
All of you know that last year I got to run against the real Donald Trump.
So he makes the little Catholic cross thing, right? Thanking the Lord that Trump is not still in office. Ironically, he should have made it for the 13 service members who would still be alive if Trump was still in office. Newsom and the liberal ideology so played out in California, a great example of what all can be spoiled when liberalism takes hold. And that's the real story tonight. Elite liberals are exposed in that state, so useless, so feckless, and everybody is starting to see it. The independents are very motivated tonight. That's a big deal. That's why we're seeing such desperation from people like Biden, Kamala, Obama, all these big names coming out there, huge amounts of money from super rich liberals who are some of the biggest cancers in this society. This scam works so well for them, and they must save it. And still, Newsom continues to frame this recall as some kind of a Republican power grab, as opposed to just the awakening to the damage done by years of Democrat supermajorities, leading to the absolute decay of one of the most beautiful and fruitful places on the planet. The terrified governor with his slick back hair scolding Republicans and even us today.
They designed this to get us off guard, and so we got to make up for that. And I think in the last 5 months we're beginning to do that. You see the awareness gap closing. It's off the charts for Republicans because they've got that echo chamber at Fox, One American News, Newsmax. And these people should be ashamed of themselves. Not just Larry Elder. Forget Larry Elder. But the former president of the United States. Stop. And all the Republican backers in Congress and the Senate. Grow up. It's about our country. It's not about you. It's not just about power.
Such a joke. Somebody that doesn't care about anything but himself. It's not just about power. From the man who has the support of the president, vice president, and former President Obama, by the way, in a campaign that's sitting on a mountain of cash. By the way, where are all the liberals complaining about big money in politics right now? Where are they? What happened to those people? Newsom reportedly spent more money battling this recall election than he did on his 2018 campaign. New York Times reported last week he raised $70 million this year into an account to battle the recall, much of it in July and August, allowing him to dominate the television and radio airwaves, out-advertising his opponents, by some insane number, probably 50-1. And that's exactly why the numbers are in his favor tonight. They were very close about a month ago, but the money always wins, and the voters end up losing. Contributions to Newsom's campaign include $3 million from the CEO of Netflix, $500,000 from the Dr. Evil George Soros, and another $500,000 from a Hollywood producer, $750K from the wife of Zuckerberg, and another $1 million from a real estate magnate, George Marcus, who's loving the fact that you can't get an affordable house in California, by the way. He's loving these liberal policies. He's a real estate magnate. He's loving the fact that you can't afford a house in California. These are the people totally unaffected by the liberal virtue signaling policies that are destroying that state. The entire state could be engulfed in wildfires. The only house could be $10 million. Every prisoner could be set free, and the CEO of Netflix would have no idea. His palace with private security would remain unaffected. It's you that gets screwed by all this. And he, the guy that runs Netflix, and all the other powerful people are the one who run the state. They decide who wins. It's their money. In contrast, Larry Elder reported to have spent a little over $600,000 on his campaign. Compare that to $70 million. But sure, it's a power grab. So what's at stake for California? Well, of course, the high cost of living is terrible. It's overregulated. You can't build anywhere. You can't build houses. The environmentalists run the government. They won't let you build anything. You got the homelessness, thanks to idiotic liberal policies, incentivizing the homeless from all over the country to migrate to the Golden State. So basically every homeless person in America either lives in New York City or in California at this point. Theft has become commonplace, decriminalized, as you know. You can walk into a Walgreens, steal anything you want, just walk out. It's a great place to live. Jobs disappearing as high taxes and overregulation take hold. Remember this, liberals do hate business. They really do. They vilify it every chance they get. Profit is evil. California's population fell by more than 182,000 last year, first yearly loss ever recorded for the nation's most populous state. Imagine living somewhere so wonderful and leaving and going to Nevada. That's bad. The median home price, more than $700,000. The median income in California, $75,000. Do the math. What kind of house are you going to have? By the way, here's a fantastic soundbite from the phoniest of the phony, the governor himself.
Racial justice is on the ballot tomorrow night. Economic justice is on the ballot tomorrow night. Social justice is on the ballot tomorrow night.
Racial justice is on the ballot. The rich white guy from a rich family in San Francisco. Racial justice is on the ballot. You can't let the black guy from the south side of LA get into the governor's mansion. Racial justice is on the line. You can't let that black white supremacist into the governor's mansion, for God's sake. I mean, can you imagine saying something with a straight face like that? I mean, what a buffoon. The chair of the California Republican Party releasing this statement, first Vice President Harris, now President Biden. It's baffling and insulting that Gavin Newsom would want either of them campaigning to save his job while California children, women, and families remain abandoned in Afghanistan by this administration.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.